When we just talk about the technical potential that would be available to be harvested, there is more wind energy, wind resources around the world than mankind is using on a commercial basis today. We can cover the whole demand of mankind only with wind energy. This is not what we're proposing. We propose a mix of renewable energy sources, but without doubt there is no lack of resources.
But what share do you think would be reasonable? What's the sort of potential?
Well, I think that depends on the place. I mean, there is not this one solution for the whole world, but we can see that countries like Denmark, for example, they have already today 30% of the electricity coming from wind power. They want to go for 50%. So obviously the government sees that 50% is no problem. It could become even a bit more. And that is, of course, only electricity, but they also start already using the electricity if they have an excess, which happens, of course, in the case of wind, for heating purposes. And then, of course, it's obvious that electrical mobility, wind power could also play an important role in mobility, in transportation. So it could be 20, 30, 40, 50% of the energy demand in the long term, something in that range. Difficult to say at the moment, but as I said, some countries have already 30% now.
We can hear in the background there are people calling for more climate finance. another feisty day at the UN talks. What are the different potentials for wind around the world? So what regions do you see have most potential?
Well, there's practically no country without wind resources. And it's very interesting, the more we look into the wind resources, the higher the assessment gets. There's many countries where initial studies, they came out, like with South Africa, they had a study with only maybe 2,000 megawatt would be possible. Now they know that that's no problem. They can do in 1 or 2 years if they install. So we have a closer look than, aside from maybe the Vatican, but even they could have some small wind turbines on their roof. Every country has places where it makes sense to harvest wind power today. And by the way, I really understand that these people are making noise and it's necessary to do that. Just I hope that they don't only complain about what's going wrong, but also point at the solutions, because the solutions are obvious. We have the potential, the resources, renewable resources. We have the technology today. They're even not more expensive than those technologies that create the problems like nuclear or fossil fuels. We must now invest just in the right way and not invest anymore in the polluting technologies. Stranded investment, which makes it even difficult later to get rid of them.
I mean, in terms of wind, one of the big arguments is whether it's actually cost effective. And there are lots of arguments about whether it can survive without strong subsidies. What's your take on that? When are we going to be able to see wind, be able to have, parity with other forms of energy?
Well, thank you for asking this question. Just 1-2 weeks ago, there were 2 studies published, one by Citibank, the other one by Fraunhofer ISE, a research institute, so one from the business side, from the scientific side, and they both came to the conclusion that in terms of electricity generation, onshore wind is today the cheapest option to generate electricity. When you take into account externalities like climate change, then it's even more favorable for wind power. We have also seen auctions, for example, in Brazil, where wind power was cheaper than any other option that was submitted. Hydro, gas, coal, nuclear, they were all more expensive. So when we look at the full cost, yes, wind is today very cheap. It is the cheapest. We have 2 challenges. One is we have the specific investment cost structure. So we have the high upfront investment. So that's especially for developing countries with high capital cost creates a problem. You must pay now for the next 20 years. To overcome this, we could have some international guarantees also. That would really help. And of course, wind as a volatile energy source, we must combine it with other sources like hydropower, like bioenergy. Then we can overcome that as well.